And I suppose another error people make is, when horses are suddenly changing their use. Let's say you have a horse that's being worked during the summer, maybe a racehorse, or it could be the pony or the riding horse, and suddenly they're finished. And you stop riding them, and you keep feeding them the same. Or sometimes you make a sudden change in the feed. Or maybe the horse is left in the stable and he gets bored and he starts eating too much straw. And he starts getting constipated.
There's a lot of factors going on there. We see that with injuries as well, where a horse is racing and then it needs box rest. You have your change in regime as well, which stresses the horse, because the horse, they're a creature of habit, and they thrive on kind of routine. I think the key to feeding a horse is looking after is routine. And when their routine is changed, they may not show it, but it does stress them. And even movement is good for gut motility. The horse wasn't designed to live in a 12 by 12 box for 23 hours a day. They were out grazing, and if you put a pedometer on them, I can't remember, but they cover a fair amount of kilometres per day as they graze, and that movement massages the gut, helps gut motility, and keeps them, I suppose, calmer as well. But when you have them inside, you've changed the diet, you've changed their routine, and they're maybe not exercising as much. These will all affect the gut, and stress does affect the gut. Stress, we all know, I remember before exams I mightn't have been that hungry, or may have been going to the toilet a lot more before an exam. Stress does affect your gut. We see it with ulceration. And horses are definitely under stress a lot of the time, even when they come out of training, with change of routine and change of management and that sort of thing. And it does affect the gut, and we will see a lot of things like colics and things like that from animals. Or on the other hand, just animals in poor condition. I've seen animals out in lush pasture not putting on condition, and they've been wormed, they've been blood tested, they've been given tonics, but it's often they're on their own. And they're standing looking out over a gate. You see the gate is all poached, and they're looking across out at the horses 3 fields away. You put in a companion with them, and they will now lie down, they'll graze the rest of the feed, and they'll do quite well. And that's why, you get computer programs out there that will analyse your diet and do all that sort of thing. But I can't do that. I have to see the horse, and you can show me what the horse has been fed and tell me this, that, or the other, and weigh the horse. But you've got to nearly live with the horse and actually look at the big picture. I think that's the key to feeding horses.
And I suppose even in aiming to do that, you should learn how to condition score a horse. Ideally, it'd be nice to be able to weigh your horse. And you can weigh them with a weigh scales, or there are ways with measuring tape to measure their girth, and that you can make an estimate of their weight. But I suppose a simple way of doing it is condition scoring them. On a scale from 1 to 10. And depending on the time of year,
I think it depends on the time of the year and depends on the horse. A cob and condition score, if you're talking about a scale of 5, of 4 is probably normal enough. Where a racehorse of 3 is probably quite good. You know what I mean? So you have to look at the breed of the animal as well, and again it comes back to looking at the individual animal. But definitely you have to, I think these are useful tools to look at, and especially when they're rugged up a lot and they're out in the winter, maybe with New Zealand rugs, to take the rug off of them now and again and just have a look at them and see do they need a bit of supplemental feed or not, rather than leaving the rug on them from November till February or whatever, and then taking it off and seeing a skeleton or an obese horse.
Absolutely. And of course, another very obvious thing, and I noticed this winter, is obviously a good quality water supply. And that happened this winter when it was very, very cold, and trucks were frozen over.
As I said, their fat can tide them over, but they can't. They're not like a camel. They can't store water, so they do need water.
And so if the trucks are frozen over, you have to be ensuring, especially winter time, that they have to have adequate supply of water. And also sometimes it's very, very cold. They may be less inclined to drink it. Do you find that?
Definitely. It's one of the reasons why horses often uncharacteristically will break out of a field, is if you check their water, and actually they're very fussy about water because they have an acute sense of taste. And I've come across a horse one time that was breaking out of a field, and uncharacteristically, and we were fencing it up, and he got in company and he still broke out, and checked the water, and the water was a dead crow or a dead rat or something at the bottom of it, and it was foul. Now to look at it, it looked fine, but you've got to put your hand in, smell it, and if it smells bad, that horse isn't going to drink that water. So it's important to have good quality, like good quality food. It's not just a matter that there's a water top in the fields and it looks full. You've got to empty it out and take the leaves out and dead animals out of it and things like that.
And do you have any view about what's better in when people do feed concentrate, whether they would use a ready-made cube or sweet mix, or whether they might use oats with a balancer?
I think the commercial feeds, good quality commercial feed, is probably the safest bet, because they'll tailor-made them for your yearling or for your foal or for your horse in a lot of work. And you know, a lot of these companies have good nutritionists and they put a lot of work into it. And it gives me a bit of peace of mind when I hear of someone that they're feeding a reputable company's feed for that particular animal. I don't have to worry about deficiencies and things like that then. Where someone maybe makes up their own mix with beef pulp and maybe oats and barley and things like that. You know, sometimes you would be a little bit worried, and you'd have to think a little bit about it. Could there be a deficiency here? Especially young animals that are rapidly growing, where you're, you know, a foal growing up between a foal and 2 years of age. There's a rapid growth there. There's a huge demand for balanced nutrition of protein, calcium, phosphorus, and all the trace minerals. And if you don't get that balance right, you can get developmental problems. And it can be overbalanced. You can have too much energy, because optimum growth isn't maximum growth. We see that a lot in large breed dogs, the Great Danes and things like that, and even turkeys and pigs, where we get a huge amount of developmental problems because they're pushed too quick. Yeah. So the key to those is actually, and it's not conducive maybe to selling them in sales or showing, is actually not to push them as quick. It's actually to slow them back a little bit and not force them on.
In actual fact, your yearling that looks in show condition,
yes,
and looks wonderful to the eye,
yes,
may have soft bone structure,
yes, yes,
and may not be the ideal racehorse.
No, and they've shown it in the feral versus domestic animals. The domestic animal will grow much quicker, but you know, by 4 years of age they've reached the same, except it's a slower, smoother curve. You know, with the kind of the feral animal, but the domestic animal, we're inclined to push them up there too quickly, and that we see a lot of. I'm sure you see a lot of developmental orthopedic problems.
And do you think there are a couple of areas of Ireland that could be maybe, you know, because of high molybdenum in the ground, that is kind of
I think it's a good idea. I know in my own area we've contacted Chagas people to do a soil test. They were able to tell me immediately that we were high molybdenum, and even though our copper levels are okay, you know, we have to watch that. Yeah. And you know, I think some of your farm advisors will have maps, but it's a good idea to do a soil test. They say every 5 years. Maybe you don't have to do it that often, but to get an idea, because it may save you money. You may be giving them copper and they don't need copper, and on the other hand, they have to give copper. You know, so I think it's a good idea. You know, it's attention to detail, and I think that's the key to successful.
What's your thought then about if you go into these stores where you can have myriads of nutritional and vitamin supplements and all added on extra things?
Yeah, I mean, you see that in human nutrition, and they've done work in human nutrition, and most of the time we don't need them, but it does give us peace of mind. Yeah. It would never stop anyone. I think if you're taking your multivitamins and that sort of thing, it's probably not doing you any harm. Yeah. But it's giving you peace of mind, I think.
But you need to take advice.
You do need to take advice. Unless you have a lot of money, you know, you could be wasting a lot of money.
But there are what we call nutraceuticals,
yes,
which can help in certain circumstances.
Oh, absolutely.
Problems.
Yeah. I think there's more and more knowledge coming out on that. In human nutrition, they're going down the antioxidants, and that's covering the use of antioxidants and things like that. Vitamin E, selenium, zinc, even melatonin is seen now as an antioxidant. And there's more and more work being done on that now in horses, where, you know, for tying up and muscle problems in horses, and I think there's going to be more and more information coming out on that. But yeah, I think supplements are there to be used, but you know, I think probably a lot of the time they're being overused and people aren't taking advice.